Radio. We're grateful that you're tuned in to us today. We welcome now Jennifer Schloegel, candidate for Mississippi Court of Appeals, Judge District 5, Position 2. Jennifer, thanks for coming on. First, let me offer my apologies for mispronouncing your last name. I apologize for that, and we got it right now. So, good to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'll tell you, I can't see anybody, so I'm going to do my best.
Okay, great. Well, we got you. We can hear you, and that's the most important thing, and we can see you, too, on our broadcast, so we appreciate that. So tell us about what prompted you to run for this particular position.
Well, I've served as a Chancery Court judge for 14 years, and it's been really the greatest, one of the greatest things I think I've done in my life, other than being a mother of 5 children. But I know that when this position came open, I'd been thinking about it for a long time, and I knew that I could take all that I had learned here in Chancery Court as a trial judge and really use it there on the Court of Appeals. Our Court of Appeals doesn't have a former Chancery Court judge. The trial court judges for Mississippi are Chancery judges and circuit judges. And so there's actually, I believe, only one circuit judge, former circuit judge on the Court of Appeals, and no Chancery judges on the Court of Appeals. So there's a real need for that.
Gotcha. And you're running in District 5. So how many districts do we have?
There's 5 districts altogether, and this district is 11 counties. But it's still one Court of Appeals for the whole state.
I got you.
Yeah.
So does that mean, though, Jennifer, that any cases that get appealed and make their way to the District 5 Appeals Court would have come from those 11 counties?
It could be, yes. But the cases that are appealed come from the whole state.
I got you. So you're just representing the district.
Yes, I'm just representing the district, but I would be serving the whole state on the Court of Appeals.
Understand.
Yes, so you would hear every appeal, yes.
Single body with representatives that cross the entire state.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so I have to admit, I'm not terribly familiar with that structure as well. I suspect most of the voters aren't, and that's why I wanted to get that out there to make sure.
Yes, well, there's 10 judges altogether on the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals actually wasn't created until the 1990s by the legislature, and it was created because there was such a backlog in the Supreme Court. But now the Court of Appeals hears about 80% of all the cases, and then the Supreme Court hears of all the appeals, and then the Supreme Court hears the other 20%.
Okay. Makes sense. Would there be cases referred to the Court of Appeals from the Supreme Court, or is the Supreme Court's decision final?
The Supreme Court's decision is final. So it works sort of the other way around. When the case is appealed, then the Supreme Court usually sends the case to the Court of Appeals. If someone loses in the Court of Appeals, they can appeal to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court doesn't have to take the case.
Makes sense. All right, tell us about your qualifications. I know you shared with us earlier that you've been a Chancery Court judge for a number of years, I believe since 2010. Is that correct?
Right, 14 years. That's right.
Okay.
Right. So before that, I practiced law in civil litigation, and some in Atlanta, Georgia, and then some in Mississippi. I have 5 children, so I did stay at home with my children when they were young for about 10 years and went back to law practice. Then later I ran and was elected in my first election in 2010. So I've been elected 4 times as a Chancery Court judge.
Okay. So you would expect to bring your experience serving on the bench as a Chancery Court judge to this Court of Appeals role?
Yes. And it's very important because the Court of Appeals cases, the appeals are about 70% civil cases, at least according to the
Hmm.
numbers in 2023. Right.
Hmm.
So that leaves about 30% that are direct criminal appeals and 70% would be civil. Well, the cases that I hear in Chancery Court are civil
Civil.
cases.
Yeah.
And yes, and in Chancery Court, there is no jury. So the judge is essentially the jury and the judge. And so I make all the decisions of fact and law, and then I have to put all of my reasoning and analysis in writing and back it up by citations to the law. And so I am very well practiced in writing opinions and in writing
Okay.
judgments, which is what I would have to do on the Court of Appeals.
I've heard this from other judges, the statistic you just cited, the 70% of these cases that end up in appeal are civil cases. And I got to tell you, I was a little shocked at that. So being a chancellor as you were, you've got experience litigating those, adjudicating those. Give us some examples of what you would hear in a chancery court.
Sure. I've heard just a really wide variety of cases. So, all estate matters, estate and uh, litigation could be litigation or just could be probate, whatever it is. Land matters, land disputes, all the domestic matters, family disputes like divorce, child custody, child support, termination of parental rights. I've heard government litigation, casino litigation, banking litigation, contract disputes, business
Hmm.
partnership disputes, uh, just bond validation disputes, all
Hmm.
kinds of things. It's
Okay.
really and Chancery Court too is a little different. You know, your Chancery Court is where the rubber meets the road. I mean, from birth to death and everything in between. So most people are touched by Chancery Court at some point in their lives.
Interesting. So custody cases, those are fairly common as well, are they not? Child custody
They
cases.
are. They are, and they are. And when you look at the hand downs from the Court of Appeals, I mean, there's always going to be a custody and divorce case that is usually one of their decisions every week. Every week.
Sticky, thorny, can
Yes,
be. So,
they definitely can be. Yes.
so tell us this, Jennifer. How do you rule on these cases in a way that you sort of keep your emotions at bay, that you don't get emotionally involved? Because I've talked to judges. I had two foster children, and I've been to court before, just in the common needs that you have as a foster parent, and of course, you see some of the cases before and after yours. Man, sometimes it's heart wrenching seeing the stuff that happens, families being torn apart. How do you do
It
that? How do you
is.
keep emotion out?
Well, I've had a lot of practice at it now over the years, but you can't really keep your emotions out of it completely, and that's a very difficult thing to do. The judge, especially chancellor, does carry a very heavy burden and a heavy weight to know that your decisions are affecting a child and a family and for the rest of their lives. So I have to um, really handle it very cautiously. I look closely at the law. I listen closely to the facts of each person from them. I look at their testimony, decide whether they are credible witnesses or not. And I find that I have to be very thorough and meticulous. And it is very difficult sometimes. I interview children. I interviewed a young lady a few weeks ago who told me that her best friend had gotten caught up with some other kids and they were arrested. She was 16 and they were held in adult detention and she hung herself in
Hmm,
jail.
man.
And so, and this girl was crying to me, of course, and, and our parents were fighting and there's just a lot of things. So I hear a lot of things and I just try to take it in and be a real person, not just a judge, and just try to meet them where they are.
It's such a contrast, I guess you could say, Jennifer. You mentioned contract disputes, which I would assume
Yeah.
often involve Could be a consumer in a business, two consumers, two businesses, I guess all the above, enterprises. I mean, that's completely different than dealing with some of these more domestic situations. We got about a minute left.
Yes. Yes, it's all over the map. You're right. It's, I mean, I might have in just one day, I might have two business partners arguing over their inventory and who broke their partnership agreement, and then the person waiting in the hallway is about a custody matter. Yes.
All of that flows through your court now and would to the appeals court. That's the point, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. That is the point. Yes.
Anything else you want to say? We got about 30 seconds left.
Well, I'm just honored to serve. I know that a judge is called to be a servant, and I am willing to do that. I've done that for 14 years, and that is what I would consider my role to be, a servant to the people of Mississippi.
Appreciate you coming on, Jennifer. Good luck to you. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Wealth studio.